Hello, my name is Hugh Sung, and in this lesson we're going to explore voicing. How to make one voice come out more clearly than other voices. Now, one advantage we have as pianists is we have the ability to play multiple voices across both hands. In the Bach preludes and fugues in particular, a fugue is a special kind of piece where you can have 2, 3, 4, sometimes even as many as 5 different voices singing or playing at the same time. How does Bach do it? It's incredible. And that's the art of fugue playing, where you have 2 hands, but instead of just having a melody, just a single voice in one hand and a couple of chords in the left hand, there are actually musical techniques where it sounds like 4 or 5 people are singing at the same time. It's really quite amazing. But even in simpler music that doesn't have multiple voicings, it can be a challenge to get the top voice, especially if you're playing the melody and the harmony in a given hand at the same time. It can be a real challenge to get the most important voice to sound as clear or sound louder than the harmonies. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to give you some simple ideas to work on this technique. Now, this first example, let me just show you the music really quickly. This first example comes from Handel's harmonious blacksmith variations. Let me just try to show you a couple danger spots. So for example, the right hand here, if you take a look, right in the very beginning, we have a melody on top, kind of interwoven with things, well, it's not so much, well, here we go, up to here. Let me just get that zoomed in a little better. So what we have is we have a melodic line on the very top, okay? And then we have these accompaniment notes along the bottom here, okay? And of course, these 2 notes are part of a chord that are not part of the melody. So we really want to bring these top notes out, but we don't want to have the notes underneath them in one particular hand to play louder. Let me give you an example of what this would sound like if I didn't voice this very well. I'll just play just the right hand. You can hear the bottom notes are kind of fighting for the attention of the melody, which is actually okay? So now you can hear. Now I kind of play that as a melodic note, but it doesn't matter. Okay? So how in the world do you play or learn to play the piano so that one voice sounds louder than all the other voices? Again, I'm going to show you a couple of exercises, actually basically one very simple exercise to help you learn this technique. So essentially what has to happen is that the top voice, the top finger, needs to play obviously with more weight and a little more speed than the bottom finger. And that's going to be tough because, for example, a lot of times your thumb will be playing as part of the bottom notes in a chord or a second voice. And because the thumb naturally is so much heavier and a bigger and a more dexterous finger than these other ones, the challenge is not getting this thumb to overpower these upper, smaller, weaker fingers, particularly the poor pinky. You know, if the good Lord had designed pianists to play the piano well, he would have put the thumb on this side and our pinkies on that side. And that's why left-hand solo music works so well, because you have the strongest finger on top. But for the right-handed pianist, it can be a real challenge. Maybe we didn't design our pianos well enough. So anyway, the challenge is going to be getting these smaller fingers to play stronger than this larger thumb. Or, you know, again, and it's really challenging because the melodies are usually on top and the stronger fingers on the bottom. How do you counteract that? So let me show you. Let me just take a look at how I'm playing. I'm kind of exaggerating, okay? So what's happening, I'm just going to describe the feeling. My pinky and the upper notes are going to be playing with a lot more speed and a little more weight and pressure, and my thumb is going to be playing with very lightly. Now the challenge is, of course, if you're thinking about playing an upper note faster, how in the world do you play this slower? The truth is you come down at the same time. One thing you can think about is coming down only halfway down the key while you're coming down the full depth of the upper key. So the lower key kind of aim for the kind of the middle of the stroke, whereas the top note would go all the way to the bottom. That's one way to think about it. So here I'm going to really dig down all the way to the bottom, but this finger I'm going to kind of aim kind of halfway. So it's heavy, light. Heavy, light. Heavy, light. And light, okay? And the chord is very challenging. Now you've got two fingers, you've got to play light while this finger is playing very heavy. So how in the world, it's hard enough to play with two hands. Much less to think about how in the world am I going to get one finger to sound heavier, lighter, and I've got my left hand too. So let me give you some suggestions, one basic suggestion to try to understand how to work on voicing your notes. One very simple idea is to do this. Whatever notes you have as melodic line, we're going to make sure they're very loud and connected. Okay, so just practice one time playing just the melodic notes, very smooth and connected. Now, the bottom notes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them go if I'm playing them together. So, and really staccato. Hold the top note. See what I just did? With these two notes, I'm going to let this go and I'm going to hold on to this. Staccato on the bottom note. See what I did here? Even though this is the very note is above it, I'm going to play it really short and light and staccato and then connect the melody. Now here in the case of the chord, I'm going to play this note and very light and released on the bottom. So just that simple exercise can help you an awful lot. Okay? And once you get that comfortable in one hand, then you can add the other hand. And you can also kind of practice it like this so that if you really want to focus just on the melody note, let go of the other notes in the left hand. So my sole weight focus is going to be on the top. Excellent exercise for coordinating the different finger sensations between your melody and your harmony. I want to take a look at one more example, and this is going to be a lot more challenging because this is going to deal with an inner voice. So remember we were just talking about Bach preludes and fugues. Actually, I should say we were talking about Bach fugues. And many times, most of the time, the melody will be in the very top voice. But in a fugue writing, sometimes the most important voice would be in the middle, or the bottom, or somewhere in between. So what I want to take a look at is a very specific example of the case where the melody actually crosses over from the left hand into the right hand, but the right hand is going to take over the melody in the middle of the voice where another voice that's accompanying is on top. Sound confusing? Well, let me show you the music and you'll see what I mean. So here's an excerpt from the C minor fugue from the Well-Tempered Clavier by Johann Sebastian Bach. This is book number 1. If you take a look, I kind of highlighted, it's kind of the end of one page here, okay? And then we're going to go to the next page. Let me see if I can turn this page over here. Oh, there you go. And we're just going to go to the top of this next page until you see where that highlighter is drawn, okay? And it looks really confusing, but let me see if I can illustrate with my magic tools here, illustrate what's going to happen, okay? See if I can get my pen to work. There we go. Good. So what's going to happen is we're going to have this melody. Oops. Let me use my highlighter instead of this blue pen. That'll be easier to see. Okay. So here we're going to have this melody. And let me move to the next page really quickly. Let's see if I can do this. And the melody. Sorry about that. And the melody is going to continue here on the bottom. And we're going to go over. Now if you've noticed, I kind of drew the melody, but there's a lot of stuff happening on top. Oops, let me just do that again so we still have that melody drawn. Okay, good. We still have stuff, as you can see from the notes, we've got stuff on top, stuff below. It is a complicated mess. So let's hear what this should sound like. Now, add to the complication is that some of the notes are short, some of the notes are long. How in the world do we do this? Again, I'm just going to show you, it's going to be the same exercise. The challenge will be, of course, is that you're going to be jumping between the hands. So let's just start from that measure. Now here, if you're comfortable, you can either, even though this is staccato here, for now, I want to get the sensation of which hand is stronger. So for now, I'm going to hold everything legato in this exercise. Now here, the melody is going to transfer from here to the right hand, thumb here. See how I'm letting go of every other note except for the melody? Okay? Let me do that one more time for you. Okay? So holding just the melody notes no matter which hand it's in. Okay? And then once you get comfortable with that feeling, slowly, first try introducing the notes all legato, but making sure that the weight is okay, I'm still kind of mixing in the exercise with the actual music. And then eventually, it's easier with two separate hands, but within the hand, even here, if I've worked on my exercise well enough, I can separate both sets of notes but have more weight on the middle notes. Okay? So that's a very simple exercise that you can apply to any piece with multiple voicings. And if you just want to work on most songs that have a melody and a chord at the same time, try that exercise. Hold the top note while releasing the bottom harmonic notes or the bottom voicings or vice versa. And just try to see if you can learn to feel the difference in weight, speed, and pressure between the melody notes and the harmony notes. By doing that exercise, by doing two different things and two different kinds of muscle motions, you'll eventually learn to have that kind of voicing where you have complete control over which voice, whether it's in the top middle, bottom, doesn't matter. Okay? So I hope this simple exercise helps you really refine your upper, middle, and your voicing technique no matter where the voices lie.